Money can be a source of happiness, but it can also be a source of stress, regret, and pain. We've all been there. We've all made mistakes when it comes to money. But the good news is that we don't have to let those mistakes define us. We can learn from them and use them as an opportunity to grow and improve. That's why I'm here today. I'm going to take you through my personal journey of financial ups and downs and share with you the lessons I've learned along the way. Let's learn together, grow together, and create a better financial future for ourselves and those we love. Are you ready? Let's get started. Mistake 1, not budgeting properly. We all know that budgeting is important, but how many of us actually take the time to do it properly? In fact, not budgeting properly was one of the biggest money mistakes I ever made. Without a proper budget, I had no idea where my money was really going, and I was constantly overspending on things I didn't need. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I realized I needed to make a change. I started by creating a budget that accounted for all of my expenses, from rent to groceries to entertainment. And slowly but surely, I started to see my bank account grow. By having a budget in place, you'll be better equipped to handle unexpected expenses without derailing your financial goals. So, if there's one piece of advice I can give you when it comes to budgeting, it's this: make it a priority. Your bank account and your future self will thank you. Mistake 2, overspending on credit cards. I used to be guilty of overspending on my credit cards, thinking I could just pay off the balance later. But the truth is, the interest rates on credit cards can quickly spiral out of control, leaving you with a mountain of debt. It wasn't until I found myself drowning in credit card debt that I realized I needed to make a change. I started by taking a hard look at my spending habits and identifying areas where I could cut back. I also made a plan to pay off my credit card balances as quickly as possible. By creating a budget and sticking to it, I was able to stop using my credit cards as a crutch and start living within my means. And with each payment I made, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. Now, that's not to say that credit cards are inherently bad. When used responsibly, they can actually be a helpful tool. But it's important to remember that every time you swipe your card, you're essentially borrowing money that you'll need to pay back with interest. Mistake 3, neglecting to build an emergency fund. Life is full of surprises, both good and bad. And when those unexpected expenses come knocking, it can be tempting to turn to credit cards or other forms of debt to make ends meet. That's why having an emergency fund is so important. It's a safety net that can help you weather any financial storm that comes your way. Unfortunately, I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I neglected to build an emergency fund, thinking that nothing bad would ever happen to me. But then, a series of unexpected expenses hit me all at once: a car repair, a medical bill, and a job loss, and I found myself in a deep financial hole. It wasn't until I started setting aside a portion of my income every month for emergencies that I was able to start clawing my way out of debt. And let me tell you, it was a huge relief to know that I had a cushion to fall back on when life threw me a curveball. Now, building an emergency fund may seem daunting, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. But even setting aside a small amount each month can make a big difference over time. The key is to make it a priority and treat your emergency fund like any other bill. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to a separate savings account so you're not tempted to skip a month. Mistake 4, investing without a plan. I'll admit, I made this mistake early on in my own investing journey. I bought stocks based on tips from friends or articles I read online without really understanding the companies or industries I was investing in. Needless to say, my returns were lackluster at best. It wasn't until I started doing my own research, reading books on investing, and developing a long-term strategy that I began to see real growth in my portfolio. One important lesson I learned is the importance of diversification. By investing in a mix of stocks, bonds, and other assets, you can spread your risk and minimize the impact of any one investment performing poorly. Another important factor to consider is your time horizon. Are you investing for the short term or the long term? Your answer will help determine the types of investments that make sense for you. And of course, it's important to be patient and stay the course. The stock market can be volatile, but over the long term, it has historically delivered strong returns. Mistake 5. Failing to negotiate. Unfortunately, many people fail to negotiate, either because they're afraid of rejection or they simply don't know how to do it effectively. I used to fall into this camp myself. I would accept the first offer that came my way, whether it was a job offer or a price on a car or a house. But then I learned that negotiating can be a win-win situation. By advocating for yourself and pushing for a better deal, you can often come away with more money in your pocket or a better value for your dollar. The key is to be prepared and do your research. If you're negotiating a salary, for example, find out what others in your field are earning and be ready to make a case for why you're worth more. If you're negotiating a purchase, do your homework on prices and be willing to walk away if you can't get the deal you want. And don't be afraid to ask for what you want. The worst that can happen is that the other party says no, but even then, you've shown that you're a savvy negotiator and you've gained some valuable experience for the next time around. Mistake 6. Impulse buying. I used to be a chronic impulse buyer myself. I would buy things on a whim without really thinking about whether I needed them or whether they fit into my overall financial plan. But then I realized how much money I was wasting and how it was preventing me from reaching my financial goals. So I made a conscious effort to curb my impulse buying habits. One strategy that has worked well for me is to implement a waiting period. Whenever I feel the urge to make an impulse purchase, I force myself to wait a set amount of time, like 24 hours or a week. During that waiting period, I ask myself if I really need the item, if it fits into my budget, and if there are any alternative options. More often than not, I find that I no longer have the urge to buy the item once the waiting period is up. Another strategy is to stick to a shopping list and avoid browsing or window shopping. If you only go to the store with a list of items you actually need, you'll be less likely to be tempted by impulse buys. Remember, the key is to be mindful and intentional with your spending. By taking a few extra moments to consider each purchase, you'll be able to make smarter choices and keep more money in your pocket. Mistake 7. Not planning for taxes. As a freelancer or small business owner, you may have irregular income or receive income from multiple sources. This can make it difficult to estimate your tax liability and plan accordingly. I made the mistake of not setting aside enough money for taxes early on in my freelance career. When tax time rolled around, I was hit with a huge bill that I wasn't prepared for. To avoid this mistake, it's important to estimate your tax liability early on and set aside money on a regular basis. This means tracking your income and expenses throughout the year and calculating your estimated tax payments. You may also want to consider working with a tax professional or using accounting software to help you stay organized and on track. The last thing you want is to be hit with a big tax bill that you can't afford. By planning ahead and setting aside money for taxes, you can avoid this financial pitfall and keep your finances on track. Mistake 8. Keeping up with the Joneses. We've all heard the saying, keeping up with the Joneses. It refers to the temptation to compare ourselves to others and try to keep up with their lifestyles and spending habits. But the truth is, trying to keep up with others can be a dangerous financial mistake. I fell into this trap myself, constantly comparing my lifestyle and possessions to those around me. I thought I needed to have the latest gadgets, the nicest car, and the trendiest clothes in order to feel successful and happy. But the reality is, trying to keep up with other spending habits can lead to overspending and debt. It can also cause you to lose sight of what's truly important in life. Instead of focusing on what others have, it's important to focus on your own financial goals and priorities. This means creating a budget and sticking to it, saving for emergencies and future expenses, and investing in your future expenses and investing in your future. It also means learning to be content with what you have and finding joy in experiences and relationships rather than material possessions. Mistake 9, not seeking professional help. Many people feel like they should be able to handle their finances on their own, but the reality is that managing your money can be complicated and overwhelming. And if you're not an expert in finance, it's easy to make mistakes that can be costly. I made this mistake myself, thinking I could handle everything on my own, but I quickly realized that there were many aspects of finance that I didn't understand, and that seeking professional help could save me a lot of money and stress in the long run. A financial advisor, accountant, or tax professional can provide valuable advice and guidance when it comes to managing your money. They can help you create a financial plan, invest wisely, and make smart decisions that will set you up for long-term financial success. If you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure about your finances, don't hesitate to seek professional help. It can be a worthwhile investment in your financial future. Remember, managing your money is an important part of life, and it's okay to ask for help when you need it. So don't let pride or fear hold you back from seeking professional help. Take control of your finances and set yourself up for a bright financial future. Mistake 10, ignoring retirement savings. When you're young, it's easy to put off thinking about retirement. After all, it's decades away, and there are more pressing financial concerns in the present. But the truth is that the earlier you start saving for retirement, the better off you'll be in the long run. The power of compound interest means that even small contributions to a retirement account can grow significantly over time. I made the mistake of ignoring retirement savings early on in my career, and it's something I regret. I wish I had started saving earlier and contributed more consistently over the years. If you're not already contributing to a retirement account, such as a 401k or IRA, now is the time to start. Even if you can only afford to contribute a small amount each month, it's better than nothing. And if your employer offers a matching contribution to your retirement account, make sure you're taking full advantage of it. That's free money that can significantly boost your retirement savings over time. Remember, managing your money is an important part of life, and it's never too late to start making positive changes. By avoiding these common mistakes and making smart financial decisions, you can set yourself up for long-term financial success and security.